So this is where a little bit of planning hopefully pays off. Right now it is raining pretty heavily, but this is due, as you saw on the maps, to carry on east. We're heading west, so hopefully before long we will get some dry conditions. What I'm not massively confident about is how much of the cloud cover is actually going to break away, but still a great road trip. So a little bit of an interlude. We've brought ourselves to a camper van showroom place. My credit card's about to explode. So the credit card has survived the trip to the camper van motorhome showroom, but watch this space, that's all I'm gonna say. Okay, little spot of lunch over. We're about 3 or 4 minutes away from my chosen location, so I'm gonna head off now, have a bit of a bimble around there and seize what we can seize. Finally made it here. And where is here? Well, not quite to the final spot that I want to be on this evening, but I spotted this little lay-by and pathway on Google Maps. So my final location for, or my main location for today, is going to be the Boyarter Bay. It's actually commonly known as the Murder Hole. And I really want to get there a couple of hours before sunset to have a bit of a recce around. Not sure how the weather's going to be, but I just wanted to check out this little bay that's just on the other side of Boyarter. I'm not sure whether it's much cop or not, but I spotted that you're able to get the car and park up, so why not? Taking a little bit of a mitch down to it right now. As you can see, it's a pretty fantastic location. It actually reminds me of a beach that I visited on one of my first sorties into Donegal, and that's the beach that lies below Dunree Head. And this is one of the fantastic things about the Donegal coastline. It's just all these little pockets of fabulousness. So I'm down on the beach. Not a huge amount to shoot from a grand vista point of view, but some of the natural patterns on the sand are just absolutely gorgeous. So I'm just shooting with a little Fuji X100C. So this has a 23mm lens on it, which actually equates to a 35mm focal length. So I just love it. It's one of my favorite pieces of Fuji kit. And I'm shooting in JPEG mode with actually the film simulation. What that allows me to do is actually shoot with 3 different Fuji film simulations at once. So I'm currently shooting with a standard classic chrome and also with a black and white. And so rather than taking 3 individual images with the different film simulations, it's allowing me just to take one shot and have 3 different looks to it. So this is what I would do when there's not really a huge amount to shoot in terms of a grand vista on the beach. Look for patterns. I'm always looking for images which complement a potential final shot of the day, especially if you're looking to put together just a little story of your day out with the camera. So that's exactly what I'm doing here, just looking for little details, little patterns, and seeing what we can see. So, and we have this whole stretch to ourselves. Beautiful. So as you can see, the patterns are just absolutely gorgeous, just to die for. And of course now we have some pretty stunning light just showing the place up, and again all to ourselves. But this little line of just makes me think of kind of trees on a hillside, and just that little natural curve, which of course is going to help the composition as well. Just absolutely beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Wow. So yeah, I'm not the best at following directions. I had a rough idea of where to go through the field with the bull. I may have taken a wrong turn. Can't seem to find where I need to be. Still an absolutely stunning outlook though, but I really want to get to this little bay. So onward. But as you can see, it's a little bit nice. So I finally made it, and it is absolutely beautiful. Stunning little beach this is, called the Murder Hole. Obviously this time of year we're not going to have the light for too much longer, because it will disappear behind some rocks there. As always, what today was about was a bit of a recce, so I'm just going to kind of go and look for a couple of compositions. I'll bring you along for the ride in a few minutes, but it is an absolutely stunning beach. See you in a bit. Feels a little bit rushed, so I'm just going to kind of zone myself a little bit because we took the wrong way. Really don't have a lot of time with the light, so rather than running around trying to kind of just not really enjoy myself, I've just taken a few moments. I have a cup of tea behind me and I'm just going to enjoy the moment being here, because that for me is a huge part of photography, being out in the landscape. Anyway, so very basic composition, just using as the waves are coming in, gorgeous light on the on those rocks, and then just as the waves are kind of going back out again, just firing off an exposure. As the waves come in, that gorgeous side light. I have a polarizer on, and I also have a 4-stop NZ, both from Format High Tech, and that's just allowing me to kind of not only bring out the really deep blues in the sea and the sky, but also reduce the stops of light, which is giving me at the moment about 0.13 of a second. I'd obviously like to get down to about a second or so, but I'm not sure I'm going to get that. Ooh, just watching out for this wave coming in. So basically here it comes. And hopefully it won't come up above me. But now I'm going to fire the shutter. Now. And that just creates, just firing the shutter just as the sea's going out, just creates a little bit of drag through the frame and letting your viewers be taken through the frame naturally. So we've just lost the best of the light in behind a cloud, so good opportunity just to kind of look again for some compositions. And I'll show you what I'm trying to do. So what I'm really looking for here is just the types of patterns and the types of movements and the direction that each contour, each bit of rock, each contour of the sand is making the waves go. Because it's those that will actually make the best compositions. Don't just fire off shots at incoming and outgoing waves. Study the patterns that they're making. Study the patterns and the flow that they're doing over the rock faces. You know, obviously here's a little bit of a natural kind of line here where the water's obviously coming through. That light's just coming back as well, as you can see here. Just gorgeous. So as this wave just comes in, I'm just watching the patterns that it's making. Do I think that will make for a nice, interesting shape as I smooth it out with a slightly longer exposure? And of course, where do I need to position myself? This is just beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. When you're shooting waves and you're planning on doing those longer exposures, don't just plump yourself down and start firing willy-nilly. Spend some time looking at those patterns, especially when there's rocks on the beach. What shapes are the waves actually moving? And then how are you best going to position yourself? I quite like how this is just going on here, but not every wave does it. So I'm going to bring my composition over here and just see what we can do going further out, especially as that light's come back out again. Let's give that a go. Now that a lot of that really nice side lighting has disappeared for now, it might come back. What I'm doing is I'm actually isolating this rock, and from time to time out just be up below the horizon, some bigger waves come through. And what that allows me to do is slow the shutter speed to 1.5, 2 seconds. Gives a really nice kind of bold subject in the middle of the frame, and also then lets me have some interest at the base of the frame. Now, as I say, the way waves work, It's not that it happens all the time. So right now, those waves aren't rolling in. The big waves aren't rolling in. So that's why it's good to be in position, watch how the waves are behaving, and then positioning your tripod. So, oh, that was a good one. What you want in your image is to get your viewer completely immersed in the image. And one of the ways you can do that is to put your tripod in the middle of the incoming or outgoing tide. Now obviously when you're shooting that on sand, you know, you're just going to be on a hiding to nothing. You're basically just going to have your tripod moving. So a really good tip, if you can find one, is get yourself up on a bit of rock. Now the tide is actually kind of coming up and sort of sweeping up almost around the legs of the tripod, but I'm at 18 mils, so I'm really only getting the front of this rock in, and it actually really gives you the impression that you're right bang smack in the middle of the wave. So if you have the chance to get yourself up on a rock, nice sturdy tripod, but it also gives you the opportunity to make it look like you're right in the middle of the waves. So one of the great things about a beach like this here is the fact that as the tide's coming in, it's forcing you to think about continual compositions. Again, I'm just using these rocks, and again just watching the patterns that the wave's making as it goes around the rocks. This isn't going to be as strong an image as it could be, because what you really want is the side lighting on there. You really want the side lighting, because these rocks just suck up that side lighting like a big sexy thing basically. So as the tide's coming in, I'm naturally just getting pushed back. Now you can see above me here, as the sun's getting closer to the horizon, we're starting to get a nice little bit of colour up there. So of course, even though we've lost the colour here, well, most of the really, really bright colour here, we could still have an interesting image if we end up with some colour in the sky. So again, what I'm doing is I've taken the polarizer off now, and I'm just shooting with a 4-stop NZ. Shooting at f14, and that's really just to give me the slightly slower shutter speed. So here comes the tide now in, so you can watch how it just bimbles around that rock. And then if I were to fire the shutter just as it's heading out, we end up with just a bit of a nice pattern going around that rock. So as the tide's pushing me in, forcing me with new compositions, and the sky's starting to look very interesting. So this really is the gift that keeps on giving. So the sun is obviously now broken down a little bit more, and we're getting some beautiful light on the rocks. So again, even though I'm not getting a lot of light on the foreground, I can, there's still, well, two things, there's still a little bit of reflective light going on, but again, I can just create a little bit of interest in that foreground by firing my shutter about now. Because what I don't want a huge amount of that white foam, I just want a little touch of it, because then it can contrast. So I certainly don't want to fire my shutter now. A little bit too much foam, little bit too much foam, little bit too much foam. What we want, wait, patience, patience, patience. We probably fire one now. And so what that allows us to get is just a little bit of interest. Contrasting, not just pure white. You still get a little bit of that reflected colour on the sand, a little bit of reflective colour on these rocks, and of course that beautiful setting sunlight on those rocks. Not to mention a little bit of pinks and purples coming into the sky. So again, don't just be firing that shutter speed when the tide comes in, when the waves go out. Watch for it, really see what's going to make for the best picture. And in my opinion, it's when the tide has almost completely swept out and there's just a little faint line of it. And then you can create just a little bit of that lovely interest.